Welcome back to Lakewood Ranch. I know it's been a while since we posted any videos, but it's been a very busy season for us here, not only real estate-wise, but also weather-wise. So in today's video, I want to cover about 5 areas that I'm personally familiar with about what happened during Hurricane Helene, how it was different from Debbie, and what we might expect in this new one coming up called Milton. So if that's of interest, stick around. So Lakewood Ranch fared very well. We didn't get as much rain in this past storm as we did in Debbie. Now Debbie gave us 16 inches of rain, which garnered a lot of flooding around the areas, although we didn't have a lot of homes here that was flooded, but we did have some that were down in the Sarasota County area, and then a few anomalies in certain areas where the homes did have some water intrusion, and those were not necessarily in a flood zone. So if you missed the last video I put out, I'll put a link up here about why we don't want to say no flood zones in Florida. I think everywhere could actually be a flood zone because our water table is so close to the surface of the top of the soil. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about what is actually happening here. So some of the areas that really got affected were Anna Maria Island. They had really, the water covered the entire island. So almost everybody on Anna Maria Island had water up to 4 to 5 feet on their first levels. Now, if the homes were elevated, they might have been in pretty good shape, but we have a lot of homes that are not elevated, a lot of businesses that are not elevated. We at Michael Saunders and Company have an office on the island on Anna Maria, and that's kind of towards the center of the island, if you will, and that all of that was basically inundated with water. Now, we didn't have a lot of destruction from heavy winds, but we did have a lot of water, and sand basically covered the whole island. And as you can see from this video right here, the local police chief gives us a little bit of insight as to what was going on.
This, where we are right now, this is a road. This did not have sand on it, okay? This is a two-way road.
And destruction.
Our beach started here and went this way.
Now, the next area of concern that I want to talk about is St. Armands Circle. Now, St. Armands was also inundated with water elevation. So if you are familiar with Sarasota area, you go across the John Ringling Bridge, that drops you down into the St. Armands Circle area. Michael Saunders and Company has 2 offices there, and we also had a lot of destruction, a lot of water in both of those, but most of the restaurants and all of the shops that are on the first floor levels there were all heavily inundated with water, and it was not a pretty sight. There's still a lot of cleanup. But going back to Anna Maria Island for just a second, they do have a 45-day moratorium where they're not letting anybody, no guests or anything like that, come on to the beach. They want to be able to give the crews, the people who are doing the cleanup, time to get out there and do all the cleanup that they can. They're not allowed to put the sand back on the beach. It has to be cleaned and sifted before it can go back into any public area. So, and some of the reports that I've seen is they have some damage to the water system. So all of that plays a part of the rebuild process for any of these barrier islands, not just Anna Maria or Lombok Key or Siesta Key, but any of those barrier islands are going to have an issue with the infrastructure that goes along with maintaining those beautiful beaches and those beautiful islands. Another place that you might have seen me frequent with my brothers when we do our annual fishing trip is Cedar Key. So Cedar Key had the highest water level that they've ever had, and the highest one reported on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And as you can see from this chart right here, it was well over 2 feet of the previous high water mark. So their area feared much, much worse than we did here on the barrier islands in Manatee County. So we had a lot of destruction going on in Cedar Key and then on up towards Perry, Florida. Now, after the storm left here, as you know, it went up through Georgia and then it went up through the Carolinas. Well, I have firsthand knowledge of the areas around Asheville. I've seen some videos from there that just shows total destruction. And the worst thing there is they have no power, they have no internet, they have no water, and they have no cell service. So they don't have any way to communicate to the outside world of who needs recovery, who needs help. So that is a big, big disadvantage for them because they don't have the infrastructure and and the repair crews and the emergency assistance that we do in Florida. If you think about it, we experience, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hurricanes a year. So this has become almost a routine, and they have everything staged here and it's ready to go. They stage it up before the storms get here, and then after the storms, they're immediately on it. Now, I do have one connection to that area. The guy that owns Freedom Factory, the racetrack that is here in Bradenton, his name is Cleetus McFarland, and he did this little video here. He took his own helicopter from here in the Lakewood Ranch area and flew up to the Asheville, Brevard, and Lake Lure area to deliver supplies and evacuate some people that had health issues and that needed vaccinations and that kind of thing. So he spent 2 days up there flying his own private helicopter, and what he showed was absolutely amazing. There was at one airport, there was like 20 or 30 private helicopters that had come in from all around the United States and gathered there, and then an individual had set up all of the landing zones for the drops of supplies that were much needed. So if you think about it, they don't have any cell signal, there's no water, there's no infrastructure. Most of the roads going in around the Lake Lure area were totally destroyed. So I'm going to put a link down in the video below to 2 different organizations that are trying to collect supplies for these communities in need. One is called Wings of Compassion. The other thing I wanted to talk to is the new storm that's developed in the Gulf, and the name of that storm is called Milton. It's supposed to be here sometime around Tuesday or Wednesday. So I will keep you informed. That might have a greater impact on the Lakewood Ranch area, possibly into Sarasota, but it's really going to depend on where it makes landfall and what the trajectory is as we go moving forward. Mark Boehmig, Michael Saunders and Company.